This is Lady Anne, owner of KPNL Radio and hostess of the Caravan Library of Lore, and I support Tessa. As an experiencer myself, I have filed my own reports with them, and the professionalism and heart they have shown my case goes above and beyond. If you have had an experience, I cannot recommend Tessa enough.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, Winston Zedmore from Ghostbusters. I want to let you know that Ryan Stacy, he's created the Experiencer Support Association, TESA. You can check them out at www.tesacan.org. Now, they investigate paranormal, UFO, and provide support to experiencers. But you can check them out at, like I said, www.tesacan.org and see for yourself if they're really Ghostbusters. I can tell you this, they are a non-profit organization. Good luck, have fun, and keep it blessed.
Good evening. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencers Support Association. Tessa is a UFO, paranormal, and paracryptid investigation association. We investigate everything belonging to the global phenomenon linked to highly strange and unexplained experiences. We also connect experiencers with other experiencers, creating a safe, positive environment to engage and discuss this phenomenon without judgment, criticism, or retribution. From the land of the white rolling sands, on the southeasterly tip of Georgian Bay, to all of you listening around the world, as we simulcast live on KPNL Radio, we salute you. If you want to go back and listen to our previous episodes, go to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be instantly notified when we are live, not only for these episodes, but every single element Tessa has to offer. On our website, tessacan.org, we have something for everyone. We have support for experiencers, data for independent researchers, and places to advertise for professional partners. Good evening, everybody. Today is Thursday, September 30th, 2021, and I, Ryan Stacy, am your host this evening. I am a licensed private investigator, a citizen journalist, and the Director of Investigations for the Experiencer Support Association. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. Super chat, click the $ next to your name in the comment box. Remember that all donations go back into the mission. If you're catching this on the replay, please consider becoming a member and unlock bonus content, including behind the scenes and extended footage on new project developments and investigations. Just click the big blue button that says join. Our guest tonight for season 3, episode number 31, is Kevin McDougal. Kevin has had experiences with spiritual beings since a young child. He first recognized a UFO sighting at age 12 and is an avid fan of NASA space flights. However, it took him years to find someone to talk with about the spiritual beings he saw and his UFO sightings. He has since decided to always communicate with others about their experiences, and he started investigating the paranormal shortly after. Kevin is aware of the spirits surrounding him, and he believes the evidence shows extraterrestrial life has been here on planet Earth for thousands of years. All of this keeps him searching for answers to the substantial questions of our place in this cosmos. Also, Kevin is another new volunteer for the Experiencer Support Association. So, Kevin, put on your rabbit hole, or put down your rabbit hole. Put on your tinfoil hat. We're about to go down a rabbit hole. See what happens when I look away from the script? Look at that. How you doing?
That's doing good, Ryan. Thank you for having me on the show.
No worries. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of the team. Nice to meet you. As per usual, we're going to start it off with the icebreaker from Tim, the Demon Guy Morrison. You can find him on Facebook at the Demon Guy and on Twitter at Demon Guy Canada.
I forgot about that. I totally forgot about Tim's question of the day.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it. So as for those who don't know, the icebreaker, Tim makes a question for me, and I read it live on air, and to get the show going, set the mood. And what does he say? What cartoon would you like to live in for a week?
Ooh,
That's a good.
Probably Rick and Morty.
I was going to say that myself, actually. That's funny. Yeah, that was funny. I was thinking to myself, yeah, Rick and Morty. Only watched a couple episodes of it, though. I haven't seen the whole thing, but I feel like that's a good jam. Cool. All right, thank you, Tim. All right, so Kevin, why are you the way that you are? Let's get into that. Why don't we? Where do you want to start? You want to start with experiences from back in the
We
day?
can start. We can start back in the day, or we can go by categories if you want. We can go UFO, or we can go spirits.
Well, let's start with the first experience of anything in the ultra spectrum that you've encountered, and we'll go from there.
I started out with a lot of spiritual visitations, put it that way. And at first, I thought it was just me. I shared a bedroom with my older brother at the time. We were in a smaller house, and at that point, when we were growing up, we shared a bedroom. My parents' bedroom was next to us. My sister was on the other side. There was always a lot of stuff waking me up, a lot of noises, a lot of things going on in that room. And they tended to be, like always, situated around the closet and the window area. Once in a while around the door. And I always thought at first it was just stuff I was seeing. And then I started talking to my brother about it. And he would always tell me, just, go to bed, pull the covers over your head, go back to sleep, blah, blah, blah. And then one night, whenever I was bugging him about it, he looked over, and I know he saw something over there because he freaked out, pulled the covers over his head, and tried to go back to sleep. And when I tried to talk to him more about it that night, he climbed up and he wouldn't talk to me at all. And he stayed that way, and he went through the rest of the night that way with the covers over his head and everything like that. And that was the first time I realized that it wasn't just me. And it was some kind of confirmation to me that somebody else could see what the heck was going on. And I was seeing some kind of a shadow figure down at the other side of the room. And that was happening night after night after night after night. And the thing was waking me up and just trying to get my attention in general. And I could never figure out what was going on, but I just knew it was bugging the crap out of me, and it was scaring me. And to say the least, I didn't sleep much as a child. I only slept a couple hours a night, and then the rest of the night I'd be really restless and freaking out because of stuff going on in the room and everything like that. My brother still, to this day, would never talk to me about any of the stuff going on in the room. I just tried to talk to him. It was about 5 months ago. we had a situation that came up that he needed me to help him with, and we spent some time together, probably about 5 or 6 hours, spread out about 3 days. And so we got the, we were in a car together a lot of time, and if not, we were here in my living room, and he even played my guitar some and did some other stuff. We never really talked about anything over the years, and but we could pick up, the last sentence we were at talking about something, and we could just continue on. If the last thing we were talking about was the latest Springsteen album or something like that, we could pick up that conversation where we left it. But this 5 months ago, we really had some good, deep conversations about a few things, and that was probably the most we ever connected in our life. And I tried to bring it up during one of the conversations, and he'd just get up and walk out of the house. So, still to this day, I mean, he's 61 years old, and he still doesn't want to talk about it.
So you both saw something, and at a very young age. So how many years apart are you guys? He's the older brother or younger brother?
He's my older brother. He's 3 years older than I am. I'm 58.
Okay.
And,
so he may not want to. Are you guys? Does he play that big brother role at all?
Nah, he was always kind of a punk to me.
Okay.
I mean, he would protect me or stuff like that from his friends and stuff like that, but he picked on me just as much as anything else, and we never did brotherly things. But
I was just going to suggest that maybe he. Sorry, go ahead.
I know he loved me and stuff like that, but we were never going to be buddies or anything like that, and he didn't want me ever hanging around with his little brother and hanging around with him and his friends. And I don't blame him. He's 3 years older, and I was just. He had graduated right when I was starting high school, so it was that kind of leap. He was born in the summer and I was born in the spring, so even though he was only 3 years older, there was that. It was like 3 years and like 9 months or something like that. So it was that extra. There was that extra span in there, so we were separated by 4 grades. Put it that way.
Okay. I understand. What I was going to suggest is maybe he was playing the big brother role by not talking about it, because he doesn't want to. Maybe he is afraid of it. Maybe something like that is preventing him. So what exactly do you remember? So you said you saw a shadow figure. So besides the obvious of it being a black shadow, is there anything else that kind of stood out in your mind that made it like non-human or not normal?
Well, that's the deal, is that I blocked so much stuff out from when those things happened when I was younger.
Okay.
I thought they were ghosts, and I just put it back in my mind that they were spirits back at the time. But I'm in the process right now with a psychologist, and we're getting ready to start some hypnotherapy, regression therapy, to try to pull some of this stuff out. We're not actually digging for that kind of stuff, but we're trying to pull out some of my memories and stuff that I blocked out from over the years, just to see what happens, to see if it's going to be too much or what comes up. And because when I started talking about this before, I never did talk about it except with one lady back in my teens, because everyone I tried to talk to at the time, this was when I was like 7, 8, 9. I talked with my mother about it, father and brother, sister. I had talked to my reverend about it. My grandmother, she was, about
Did
the
they have an
spirits and
explanation
stuff.
for it?
No. Everybody, as far as my mother and everybody else was like, these are things you shouldn't be thinking about, and you shouldn't be, having these kind of thoughts in your head. And the only person I ever had decent conversations about spiritualism was the mother of one of my friends, and she was very religious and she was very spiritual, and so she kind of melded the two together, and she explained things very nicely to me about spirits and stuff as best she could do it without upsetting anything that would um, make things hard between my family and my church and anything else like that. And very to find out her husband just died here. She died about 10 years ago, but her husband just died last week. And so because of COVID, I couldn't go. None of us could go to the funeral. They didn't even have a real funeral, which was very sad. And I wanted to at least see her son and stuff and their daughter, because the family meant a lot to me. But I was, in North Carolina most of the time, and they were back there in Ohio. After college and everything, but so it's been kind of a real emotional last week or so.
Well, I'm gonna cut out there. I think the internet cut just for a quick second. You still there?
Yeah, still here. Yeah, I don't want to ramble on too much about that kind of stuff, but it made a huge difference to me to have somebody to at least talk to me like an adult, or talk to me like a person about it, and not just tell me to mind your own. You're a child. You don't need to talk about stuff, and this is not stuff that's It was most of the stuff I got was the demonic stuff, and you're a good boy, and you shouldn't talk about things like that, and so it at least made me feel like I was being understood, and it helped me deal with the situation a little better. And at least with her, she told me about the best thing to do was just to sit through the thing and go ahead and pray, and if I needed to leave the room or whatever to get through the nights and stuff like that, if I needed to go sleep on the couch or whatever it might be to get out of that room. And that did help some at that point. And it wasn't but another couple years that we finally moved out of that house and into another house, as this particular house. And once we got here, I started experiencing this. We got separate bedrooms and everything, and I was in an upstairs room that had another room off of it. They had no windows or anything, and it had no doors going off except into my bedroom. And at night, things would be thrown around in that room, and it wasn't the same spirit or ghost, but it was another one. It was a different energy and a different, it was like more of an angry and more of a evil type presence. I don't want to say evil necessarily, but because I don't like that word. Okay. But it was more of an anger and more of I'm out to upset you kind of thing. That's the best way I could put it. Later on, I realized that I believe it was the man that owned this house long ago. He lived here quite long part of his life, and he was a very bigoted, very offensive guy. He used to stand out. He'd chase people around. He didn't want people even walking down the sidewalk in front of his house. If they weren't, of his same classification and same status and everything else. And he would literally go out and take a hoe and chase them out. And if they just walked, he would hit them with it. I mean, it was that bad. The neighbors still talk about how the ones when they were kids, the kind of stuff he would do and stuff. He's just a bad person in general. And
Okay. And you think because of that, that's that negative energy may are you speculating that it may be that individual?
I think so. Well, I think that's who it was. And I think he didn't want to get out of this house. He just wanted to stay here. And that's why he lingered on here. He wanted to keep protecting this house and keep this place to be that kind of a situation. And that's why I feel he stayed here.
We don't currently have a definitive answer for what happens when we die. Residual energy, like the soul is energy, it transfers, it leaves the body, and if it's possible, it's very high probability, but I just can't confirm it. But you sense the negative with this one. Is it possible it's the same spirit just having a bad day though than the one you saw, or you're dead set that it's something different?
I think it's totally different than what I experienced at the other house. In fact, at the other house, I'm believing that it was more of a that it might even have been a visitation, an ongoing visitation from, and that's what I'm hoping to clear that up. I'm not hoping that that's what it is. I'm just hoping to clear that up with some.
Well, if you believe that to be a positive visitation, then there's nothing wrong with that. If that helps as well, there's like what you take from it, it drives you too, right? Sharing your experiences. You're not the only person that has experienced this shadow figure phenomenon too. The study, as you know, with the ultraspectrum report and all that, the data that I've been collecting, I do know that majority of our reports are reported as positive events. It's not as it's very rare, according to this study, that these things, those shadow figures at least, arrive with negative intention. So, I mean, have you seen that positive one since then, I suppose? If these are two separate entities, where have you seen the good one again?
I've never considered them good, okay? But I've never considered them bad. Okay, they've been troublesome. They've been, aggravating. They've disrupted my life, but I've never considered them doing anything that actually physically harmed me. But they've never been anything of a good. They've never been a good omen. They've never been something that enriched my life, as far as I know it. So that's why I never got when people talk about these are positive things, I've never been able to put a positive stamp on it, but I wasn't there to put a negative stamp on it necessarily, but I just never saw anything constructive from it. If you know what I'm talking about. They were, so I was never able to put a positive ID on any of this stuff, but they all lean toward the negative side. Everything was against what it was, even if it wasn't directly malevolent. But nothing was helping me, as far as I knew, ever. Okay, from any of the visitations. So that's one of the things I've always had a real questioning and a real I look at a lot of people's experiences and stuff like that, and I'm like, well, I've never had it that way. I've never saw it that way, and I still don't have any reason to believe it to be that way for me. Not that it's not that way for them, but it's just not that way for me.
Well, the idea of having something present while you're sleeping in a comfortable environment in your home, something you don't recognize, even if it's your grandmother standing there watching you sleep to check to make sure you're okay, and you can't see her. Like that's terrifying. I mean, the way that these the way that these entities are appearing, they don't really, they're not doing it in such an obvious way to make you feel comfortable. It's really hard. So would you, I guess, so Chantel has a question too. She said, how did the shadow figure try to gain your attention? And I like that question because I kind of want to go down that way too, to kind of figure out more in detail of like, yeah, how did you first notice it? Describe it in a little bit more detail, and then I might segue into an interesting parallel, if depending on what you say.
Well, that's the there's a lot of physical type things, noise as far as the closet door closing and hitting on the.
Okay.
They were wooden sliding doors, and whenever they would hit the edge of the closet, they would make a bunk, kind of like almost like a drum sound, like a wooden, you know. So that was a really distinctive sound that the closet door was being moved. I would actually have my covers pulled, tugged on, my feet touched, like maybe my leg touched, tugged on, or
What is
something
it?
like
What does
that.
it feel like to be touched? What describe the touch? How does that feel?
It's almost like somebody just lightly tugging on you, just like grabbing you by around the ankle or around the foot, and just
Okay.
tugging on you. And it's not like it's not like they've been grabbed and yanked and jerked you. It was more like they got the grip and then started to pull. And so it's almost like they didn't mean for them, almost like it didn't mean to wake you up, but it wanted to wake you up when it got to a certain point,
Mm-hmm.
I want to wake you up, but I don't want to wake you up until we've got you at a certain point to make a point to you. I want to get you, 6 inches off the bed before you wake up, so you know something's going on. You're just,
Mm-hmm.
because if you just think somebody touched you, then you think it was just a dream or something like that. But if you're slid down 6 inches off the end of the bed and you're a kid, you're only 4 foot, 8 inches or something like that, and the bed's 6.5 foot long or whatever it might be. You didn't move that way down the bed from the head down to the thing till your feet were hanging off. When you normally see your head on the pillow way up at the head of the bed.
And it's not a normal movement to while you're sleeping either, right? You wouldn't move down. I mean, that'd be kind of weird, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
common. It's not common movement. So why? So what I'm hearing too with this closet, it's very interesting because I've seen Men in Black reports about closets. I've seen shadow figures in doorways, arches, closets. Closet seems to be like the portal, like the most common area, but like it's a small room with a wall with clothes in it 9 times out of 10. Why do you think it was in the closet? Why the closet? Why not in the doorway or beside the bed?
Well, that's just the thing. I never knew if it was just there because it retreated back in there so it could be hidden and try to, or if that's where it was coming out of, if that's where it stayed, or what the dealio was. I never could figure out what all was going on and what the issue was and why. Those are the questions that drive me insane, or I think drive people crazy, is when they're trying to figure what are they trying to do? What is their motivation? And you're trying to figure out what are they wanting, or what is it? Just leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what drives you nuts. Is there's so many people around. Why don't you bother them? Just leave me alone.
Yeah. So not just why there. The question, not just the question of why there, but why you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and I still don't know. I can sit here. I'm sensitive enough to know right now whenever there's a spirit on the other side of the room, or there's somebody or some energy in the room, I can pick it up. I don't sit there and see straight on looking at something. I don't sit there and look straight on at a spirit and can tell you what kind of clothes they're wearing and all this other stuff like that. But I can describe you the energy that's over there. I can tell you if it's calm energy. I can tell you if it's something that's aggravated, or if it's like questioning or troubled, or if it's nervous energy, or what might be, and where it's at exactly. But I can't, it's not like I can hear the person talking, or see them moving around, or, stuff like that. Once in a while, I'll be able to see, something move out and step up quick. Or like a couple weeks ago, I saw an actual spirit on the staircase when I went over to feed the cats. Now, this is the first time I ever saw a spirit that was white. I've never seen a spirit that was white before. And they come down the steps, and I'm looking over there where the steps were. I'm looking at them. The spirit had been up at the top of the steps, and then when I went down to feed the cats and I turned back around, I looked up, and the spirit was like up at the 6th step. I could see where its feet were, and the bottom of its clothes. It's like dress or whatever was hanging down there. And it wasn't bright white or nothing like that. It was just white in a shadow. So it looked, like, somebody had white cloth on or whatever. And it was grayish color because it was in the shadow. And
could you see the face at all?
No, when I was looking there, I was looking at the bottom 1.5 foot from on the 6th step up. That was right at my right at my vision height, where I was leaning up, where I just getting up and putting the food in the cat dish. And I didn't scream or nothing or anything. I sensed it before I looked up that there was something there. So I looked up over there, and that was gone.
Now, was this a different house, or a same house that you've already had an encounter in?
I've got a lot of encounters in this house. This house is. So
do you think it's the house, or do you think it's you? Like, what? There's got to be a constant. Or there should be.
I think it's twofold. I think this house there's a river that's like 100 feet from here. The river's down like 75 feet down. We're in higher ground, but we're only like 100 feet from it. There's also a main road, like a highway, not a highway, but a country highway.
Okay.
And it also has like the power lines that go along a highway like that go out to the country from downtown and stuff like that, from the power plants are going. So it has a decent amount of power going there between here and the river. The phone lines and all that go to another, other towns and stuff are right here I'm one house away from the corner. On the other side of that road is the entrance to a park, and the very edge of that park is right there, and then the drop off to the river. And it just seems like this house is constantly catching spiritual energy coming up and down that river and down this road. It's like this place is on a highway, a spiritual highway. And I don't like the term vortex, because it's just so overused, and it's got to be a worn out term, and I don't think there's a place that I'm going to walk through. It's going to be swirling all around, and that kind of thing. But spirits seem to come in and out of here at times. They're just visitations. Then there are other spirits that stay here. I know there's a man and a woman here, and then there's another male spirit that stays downstairs in the basement. I think the guy that used to be here when I was a teenager, I don't sense him anymore. And if he's up there, he's awfully darn quiet. He doesn't want to mess with me anymore.
Okay.
But I have other spirits come and go through here. I even have animal spirits come and go through here.
Okay. How can you tell the difference between an animal spirit and what would you call the other spirit? A human spirit?
Well, the other ones are human, and then there are other types of spirits that I don't, they're whatever spirits. I don't know. I can't put my finger on them. I don't know what they are.
Well, you mentioned that you can feel, right? So like that empathic ability among you. So how does an animal spirit feel versus a human spirit versus the ones that you don't know? And by the way, Chantel has said that she can relate to you and she considers you a brave soldier. So thanks for sharing.
Animal spirits are usually moving through, and they don't carry a lot of they don't carry the emotion and stuff along with them. It's just light energy coming through. And the other thing is, I still have one of the cats that my mom had, and I took care of for like 10 years. He walks across the bed. I can feel his footsteps come across the bed, and he'll come and touch me one time. I'll feel his footsteps coming across the bed, and then he'll come up and touch me, and then he'll go walk around me, and the other cats aren't in the room. They are sleeping, hard asleep. Because I'll get up and come out here, and one will be up in 6 foot up in the cat's nest, 6.5 foot up, and the other one will be sleeping over here on my recliner. And both of them will be out, so that if I touch them, they'll jerk out of it in a sleep. So they're down and out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get from time to time I get a shadow figure of a cat sitting there in the window. And it's not like a shadow figure like you look at it like an outline, but this is a whole formed cat. And I'm pretty sure it's that same male. He looks just like that male did. And he sits right there, the same place where that cat's at. And I'll actually get up thinking it's my other male that's here now. And I'll reach over to touch him, and my hand will just go right into him. And he'll still be there. And then a minute later, he'll be gone. And if I walk across the room, he'll still be there. Turn the light on, he's not there. I can walk back across the room, walk over, sit on the edge of the bed, walk over to the other side of the room. He's still there. And he's a 3D shaped shadow in midair of darker space. And he's right there. And he's just visiting. And I've talked about this a couple times. I don't talk a lot about it because it's kind of a little too freaky to be talking about it all the time. And I don't talk about this to my psychiatrist or my psychologist or anything like that. I don't have all those folks because I'm wacky. I have them because I have to take medications for pain, so I have to be monitored by them every month by the state and stuff like that.
There's no judgment here. No judgment. Thank you.
I recommend, if you have the opportunity and you get it paid for by somebody, to talk to a psychologist or on a regular basis, because it's great to help you work out stuff.
Are they comfortable with this topic when you do share this topic with them? How are they helpful?
I've talked about And one of them that I had before was not helpful at all,
Okay.
and they were very uncomfortable talking about any of it, especially UFOs. Um, they could relate to, yeah, I got a yeller cat that looks a little bit like him or her. Um, I got after the COVID crisis came up. We'd taken a break, um, and when that break came up before they got doing things on the Zoom and everything like that, I went ahead and was able to switch back to a counselor I had before that was a little bit more um, well, she's more educated, but she was also more experienced in doing different types of psychological experiments and stuff. She'd use right brain, left brain kind of stuff. She'd use physical things that would go back and forth between one side and the other side to help with deal with my pain and stuff like that. And she was just I thought she was just a little bit more hippie,
Okay.
like so she was a little bit more open to some things, and she has been. She's just a little bit more open. She's not she actually knows somebody as a friend who has a paranormal group.
Okay.
She doesn't go visit them. I mean, she doesn't hang out with a paranormal group or anything like that. She doesn't do stuff with the group or anything, but she knows somebody who's in a paranormal group that's a friend of hers. So at least she's not
Yeah,
against
because
that kind of thing.
it's hard. It's hard for somebody to be in that field to endorse it or to share as well. But allowing you to speak about it and not judging you, that's good. Like we need that, because maybe they do believe and they just can't tell you that, because then it would encourage it because they can't prove it as well. And maybe the other one who was hard, who also didn't say anything, just was hard because they subconsciously believe it doesn't exist, but they also can't say anything. So I find that very interesting. You are aware that we have Experiencers Anonymous, right?
Yeah, I don't ever do anything anonymous, and
No,
but
no,
I am
it's the
more
same.
than willing
It's the
to.
same idea, though. Our next one's October 16th. I would recommend you give that a go if you can make it, because that would help. Uh, that would help you as well.
Um, yeah, it's like I really like the idea of Experiencers Anonymous because you're giving people there's a lot of people out there afraid to talk. I've got over the point of being afraid to talk, and I'll talk with anybody about anything. My life is total open book anymore. I'll blab, blab, blab about anything. All my experiences are all open. One way or the other, I've talked about them on some web thing or on cable TV, or some other thing. I've talked about everything about, and if not, it's open. It's
Yeah.
open record.
Yeah.
So,
And that's a brave thing,
I,
and that's good. You're comfortable, and but you weren't like that before, right? You had to work to get that way,
it
and
took a
and
long.
so, but you made it. So good work, good job, and
I
you're
know.
sitting here today, and I'm learning from you. I don't, I like to listen because I learn. I'm trying to understand. Like I said, why are you the way that you are? I mean, there's this normality about it. I don't think it's weird anymore. It's just so much stuff is happening to so many people that like it can't be paranormal anymore. It should be just be normal. This You're not the only one that can see things. You're not the only one that can sense things. I think we can accept that that's happening. I think the hard part is trying to understand why you can and I can't, and or why you and not why that ability and not another. So have you had any contact experience when you were a kid, or near death experience, anything prior to that shadow figure? Anything that you can think of that might have just turn the switch on, or do you think you were born that way, this way?
I think I had a lot of concussions.
Okay.
Concussions from head trauma and stuff like that. There was abuse. Plus, there was times that I had an older brother and older sister, and I was a lot of times pushed into things. I did get knocked out. Slammed my head into like wooden furniture and stuff. And
but you saw the shadow figure before this happened, though, right?
No, that was when I was about 2.5, 3 years old. 3 years old. That's
Right.
my.
So all those concussions and things like that wouldn't, that they didn't exist then. So you had a fully operating brain at that time, and you were still able to see. Maybe the injuries probably made in some cases, brain injuries actually enhance the ability sometimes. So I just didn't know which way you were going with that, but I just want to stop you before you might have said that that's the reason for it. I don't think so at all. Like you didn't have anything wrong in the beginning. So
My mom and my grandmother told me that when I was a baby, firstborn and stuff like that, that I really never slept. I never closed my eyes and stuff. I know I had to sleep somehow, but they said at any time of the day or night, they go in to see me and walk into the bedroom, my eyes would be open. I wouldn't be crying or saying anything or doing anything. I just had my eyes open and looking around the room. So something was keeping me occupied, watching something going on, and I don't know what it would have been or what, but I just wasn't sleeping, and I wasn't crying my eyes out or screaming or yelling, and I would just lay there checking things out, and which I always thought was very strange about what it would have been that would be keeping me occupied enough to keep me from sleeping and crying and doing the regular stuff that a 6-month-old baby or whatever would normally do. But that was just the stuff that I've heard about me, as a newborn and stuff like that. But getting on past that, I don't think any of this stuff was brought on by any real damage or stuff like that at that point. There's I never got struck by lightning or anything, as far as I know, or any type of
Then that's just a normal thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, like it's some people are born this way, and that could very well be you in this case. So let's talk about aliens. Let's talk about UFOs. Let's switch to the other side of the spectrum there. Have you actually, let's divide that. Let's start with sighting. No, actually, no. Let's talk about beings. Have you seen any extraterrestrials? Anything that might fit in that category?
Excuse me. Yeah, I have. I believe I brought a gray back with me one time after I was astral traveling.
Okay.
I know this might be a bit much, but when you were asking me earlier, and I didn't want to get into it then, but I was doing a lot of astral traveling experiments, and about 2-3 years ago, and every night I was going through the experiments on a nightly basis. I was trying to do that to get more, so I could sleep through the pain and stuff like that. And I know it's probably not the smartest thing in the world to do, but I was doing them every night so I could get to sleep. I was doing meditation and then going into astral travel at the point there to get to sleep. And I know it's not the same thing. It's not really what it's intended for, but it would get me to a point where I could, even once I woke back up, then I could get back. I could fall asleep easily. I'd gone and done my meditation. I found, I got myself to relax. I got myself to start to float, went off. I went back through and I had a situation. I was in a fight. It was all dark, but there was stuff going on. And I remember being in a fight, and an encounter. And when I came back, I could feel the cord in my head, and my head was bruised and sore the next day, and it was up right up here in the crown. But when I came back, I sat up in bed. I grabbed my 357 Magnum, and I was holding it and pointing it right at the door. My right hand. I had my left hand trying to open up my eyeball on my left eye. My eye was going back and forth and jumping around so bad, and it would not let me open, but just the slit on my left eye, and I could see just as my eye was going sliding back, jumping back and forth, I could just make out that there was a gray standing at my bedroom doorway in the hall, just at the hall. And I kept my gun pointed on him, and I talked to him, told him, he needed to get gone and all that kind of stuff. I kept the gun pointed on him, and I kept myself sat up in bed, and I kept holding my eye as much as I could to get it open, but it was like overpowering how much the eye wanted to stay closed with it going back. It's such a weird feeling. I can still feel how the eye was almost jumping out from underneath my eyelid. You could feel it. It was just disgusting to feel the eye popping back and forth in there. And
was there any telepathic communication or anything like that going on with this gray?
Yeah, I could understand it. I didn't get words or anything like that, but I got emotions from him that he intended to do me harm.
He did.
Yeah, and
that's why
because and that's why when I pulled that straight up, and I sat, pulled it straight up, right up in bed, and held it on him until he was gone, and that it must have been 15 minutes. It was like a standoff right there, and I don't know if he was one keeping my eyes, keeping me in the in that last bit of
well,
tens
he was
or
trying
whatever.
to the communication aspect with the consciousness. If telepathy is a thing, if that is what's happening in that moment, the pressure in the brain could be putting pressure on your eyes at that same time. That could be just like a sign of how intense the action was in that moment, which is interesting. Do you think that it's possible for this shadow figure phenomenon to also be extraterrestrials, and it's just in this particular time you were just able to see it more clearer because you were in a more of an awakened state, or are they separate entities altogether?
That's what I'm trying to figure out with my psychologist, to see if she can help me through relaxation and some hypnotherapy, if I can start to find out and regress a little bit to bring some of those memories back, to see if those shadow figures when I was a child, if those were actually visitations or abductions, and if that's
They
what
also could be people too.
It could be, and that's the other thing. It was
Right.
was I being molested or something else going on? That's why I've not made a push on any of that, and I don't want to, and I don't want her to push in any direction. I just want to see if I can.
But you do want to. You just want to see if there's more, right? You want to have a better understanding of what happened, so you can move forward.
Yeah, I don't care what it is, and I've kept my mind that way. I don't care what it is,
but
because there's been enough.
If you knew what it was, you would be able to at least, deal with it appropriately once you acknowledge where it lies.
I've blocked out so much stuff, and I can't access it. There's just a blockage there. And when I go to, it was just like whenever my friend's dad died last week. I started getting really, first Charlie Watts died. Okay, I'm a huge Stones fan. Charlie Watts, the drummer for Rolling Stones. I was a huge fan of Charlie's. He was the soul of the Stones, and that affected me a lot, and I didn't think it would. Then Norm Macdonald come along. I was, he's a huge fan of his. Always loved to watch him. I mean, big time fan. And then my friend's dad died, and that was more memories. So you start going back, and all these concerts and all the music, and all the times through my teenage years and college and stuff, watching Norm Macdonald on Letterman and stuff, and where I was at, and what was going on. All these memories started coming back to me in the last couple of weeks about a lot of this stuff, and experiencers go through so much stuff. I can't listen to one of them anymore and just say, oh, that don't sound right, or that this and this, and this, that. I have to listen to them and understand what they're going through, at least, no matter what. At least give them a shot to understand what's going through their head and what they've been, what went down for them, and understand that one way or the other, they're believing it, and it could have been 100 aliens that came out of the field and came up there, or yeah, it could have been something that they imagined. But either way, they believe it.
And they still have the anxiety and the pain and everything else that goes with it. So we are about to hit the commercial break, but before we do that, you are opening up a lot, and I appreciate that. You are, as Chantel said, yeah, that's just brave. You're not, you're the very example, textbook example right now of the reason why we have the Experiencers Support Association, is because even if we don't know what it is, we can at least relate to that feeling that's associated with not having those answers in anything. And if we believe it to be a higher power, if we believe it to be something divine, then that's no different than us thinking it's a mental illness. That's what brings us together. So, I don't want to say we're all suffering, but pain also brings people together, and that's how we heal together, by understanding. And as you know, with the Rutowski thing, that for me, with that coming out, 5-year investigation, that was validation for me. I carried a lot of anger and a lot of mad stuff mainly because it took a mainstream media person to get the message out there. But finally, once it's out, I feel I'm learning that other people felt the same thing. And there's that validation. It's not an experience, but it's still, it's still a shared emotion. So you are not alone. And I am encouraging you to go to Experiencers Anonymous, because even if it's not anonymous for you, I mean, there's people there that could benefit from you as well, sharing your story. I don't want to say story, but sharing your experience, and regardless of where that comes from. And thank you so much for sharing that with me. I'm moved by it. This is the first episode that we've ever had where someone just laid it out just like that. So thank you so much. You okay?
Thank you.
All right. So what we're going to do, we're just going to pause right here. Okay. So we're going to pause, and we'll continue after a message from our professional partners. Also, if you're listening to this live on KPNL Radio or future podcasts, remember to head over to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association to see the video that goes with the video, because you guys are listening to this. Remember, you are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association, and I'm with Kevin McDougal, and we will be back in a little bit and talk about aliens, talk about Tessa. We're going to turn it up, and we're going to talk about some good things. Okay, we'll see you. See you in a little bit.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. And just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
The same thing that draws aliens to our planet is the same thing that draws us to others. Exploration, curiosity, sustainability of life. That's why we go. It would make sense as to why they're visiting here.
Travis! Quit playing around, man. Get back here. Travis!
The last thing I remember was this numbing shock. Stunning sort of a feeling. Very powerful.
Get away from me!
I was just out of my mind with fear, just screaming the whole time.
It's been theorized that aliens prefer remote areas because they don't want to attract attention. Whatever it is that they're doing, they would want to do that in a less populated area. There are multiple accounts of the same thing from people from all over the world. People that do not know each other, do not live in the same cultures, and they're all looking up, they're all seeing things in the sky. So it would be naive of us to think that we're alone in the universe.
My mission is to assist and help those experiencing this phenomenon in such a way that they're able to continue and live with it, and also in a way that it can be measured, quantified, and reinforced within today's society, so that way it can be accepted and no longer viewed in a negative way. One thing that I do value in people is the ability to sense and feel when something is right and when something is wrong. That is a natural ability that we all share. Now, when we combine that with the paranormal and ufological abductions or visits, I have this sensation that these abilities are connected. Not everyone can sense, not everyone can feel. However, those who can are typically connected with something that we cannot explain. And part of my research is not just to investigate the experience, but it's also to understand and study the experiencer, to find out what they have in common with other experiencers, to try to figure out what the actual makeup is in order to be on that spectrum. There's a lot of it happening all over the world, and I do not know of any other study that is focusing on the individuals as people, only the phenomenon. All right, welcome back. You are still listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. If you're enjoying this episode so far, consider becoming a member of our channel or send us a super chat. Your membership will get you bonus content like exclusive videos, and it will help us reach our goal of launching our training center, which is Interstellar, the Academy of Ufology and Paranormal Studies. Also, if you have ever experienced an unexplained event involving the paranormal, UFOs, extraterrestrials, dogman, or any other paracryptid, head over to testacan.org/reporting system. The more reports we get, the more we will understand this phenomenon and how it affects our people. Let the others who have already reported be that example, and people like Kevin who is sharing their stories, experiences that proves we are making a difference. If it wasn't for these reports, we would not be able to do what we do, and for that we thank you. So, how you doing, buddy? You still with me?
Yeah.
Still there?
Cats were being nice. I went ahead and fed them again, so they stay nice. And,
no worries. My cats are all over the place too. Before the break, Serena had popped in. She had said, I second Chantel. We need to have these discussions, and you are brave, Kevin. I resonate so much with your experiences. See, and as I mentioned before the break, like, I know I like the fact that you're comfortable. You don't need to be anonymous, but like sharing, like, this is how you encourage other people. These people here that are listening are resonating with you. So like, you're not alone. Thank you for being here. Let's see what else we got here. Katie has asked a question. How many people that have seen a UFO have seen an alien? And do UFOs connect with aliens? So let's start with that topic, and let's dive into the UFO sighting part. What do you think about that? How many people have seen UFOs, have actually seen an alien? So I don't know that. I speculate that it's one or the other. Do UFOs connect with aliens? It's possible, but we need to prove one before the other. So that's my comment. What do you think, Kevin?
I think you're probably right. To see a UFO coming across the sky, then see it coming down towards you, close enough for them to actually, for you to see the alien itself inside of it, or for it to land and then come out at you. I think most people would probably run like heck to get out of there before that happened. But you're usually going to see one or the other, I would believe. I have not talked to anyone that's, unless the UFO's there and they see the alien coming out. I have not talked to anyone that's seen the UFO go by, then turn around and see the alien walking around.
I'm not convinced of that either, because like, for me, the analogy I would use is like, there's a store 5 blocks down the road. You could walk there, or you could get in your car. So you get in your car and you go to the store, and then you get back. Like, it's quick, it's fast, it's convenient. So we know that the extraterrestrials, or these beings, can telepathically communicate. So to me, that's the fastest route. Why hop in a spaceship, travel all the way across the galaxy, show up on this planet, and then get out and then come up and say, hey, we're taking you, or hey, we're doing something with you. So like, that's kind of the logic that I use behind that. And as everyone should know, if have been following me, it's more of a money thing. The UFOs, for me, I think is man-made, could be reversed engineered from something that was left behind in the days of the pyramids, and nothing has come back since. Like, that's all, that stuff is possible, tech from our ancestors. But I'm not convinced, at least with what I've investigated. That's my thoughts.
There's two angles on that. If we're referring to what people are trying to tell us right now are UFOs that are happening around recently, by certain groups and stuff like that, I would say those are not UFOs. Those are man-made objects. That's human technology. But when you look at other things that we've seen in the past and certain types of things that we see, I do believe those are alien craft. I do believe.
Do you have an example?
Well, like stuff like Roswell and other things like that. I do believe that was alien. Going through, there are sightings that you see that are literally awe-inspiring. The colors you see, or the light, the color of the light, the way the light is presented, that comes through. The light looks almost like it has life. I believe that when you see a real alien craft or real alien experience, it sets itself aside. It's not a questionable that you have to believe it's an alien or not from something from outside of this earth. You know the technology is way beyond, way beyond what we have, and it's not just nuts and bolts.
Do you not think that we're like, I know a lot of people say that as being fact, like especially with the Tic Tac, like just because it's observed as something that we don't understand, we as in the civilians, us who are not, all of us are not engineers, all of us who don't understand everything about everything. Uh, but does that mean that there's no one on this planet is capable or is aware of the technology to create this device? Just because we don't know what it is doesn't mean that the government doesn't know. And if the government knows because they created it, could it not just be human?
I think the Tic Tacs, if they are even a real thing, they're not. If they're not projected and pushed into the system or whatever, I think they're all man-made. That's just our technology and private sectors that have been pushed out there. I don't think any of the stuff we've seen. The reason why I don't get excited about the Tic Tacs and all that stuff like that is that we have not been given any evidence that even shows that is even real at any extent. These things just popped up. Oh, here's a little clip here and a little clip here. Take our word for it. This is from a Navy. Take our word for it. There was hours of video. Take our word for it. This is, all this stuff like that.
Well, they say they don't know what it is, and that's because they don't. And I mean, that doesn't mean it's aliens. It just means they don't know what it is. And the thing is, it's not that very good of a piece of evidence. So well, it is in comparison because it comes from a military source. So from a source perspective, it's high-end evidence on that. But I don't know, with my cell phone, like I have like 100 times zoom on my old Huawei phone, for PI stuff. Like I can see very, very far with my cell phone. And you would think the military would have, a better imagery on those, on those vessels. I'm just not convinced that's the best evidence the military would be able to provide, unless that came from a cell phone that, maybe a flip phone or something. Like the recording device doesn't, well, like a recording of a recording is what I'm trying to say. So like it came from a cockpit camera. I just feel, I don't know, it just should be better. I want better. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe I just want better.
I think you said it nicely and keeping me from saying it ugly. So
what would you say? What would you say?
I would say really, really bad things about how the photography that they've shown, the imagery they've shown, the captions, even capturing a screen in the ship when you're capturing a CRT with your cell phone. That's horrible. Those images are horrible. And then they're taking the other imagery and they're trying to say that these were done with, some of these were done with the latest equipment aboard naval vessels, and they're just awful. The technology that they're showing that was done with was just awful. Even if it was with somebody's old radio cell phone, the radio cell phones that these guys are carrying are way better than what these images are showing. And then they go out and it's just they pop them in and just a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and they're telling us, "Oh, trust us. We know what we're talking about. Trust this, trust that." And then the military's coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, we can't confirm or deny," and "Oh yes, this is real footage." Real footage of what? This was taken in a training session, in these zones that were laid out, and you're telling us that
Well, that's
there's
an
no.
interesting point too, because finish your thought. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
You're trying to tell us that nobody's out there trying to go ahead and put out any of the, even if it's 5 years, 10 years old, or 20 or 50 years old. They're not trying to go ahead and fool around with these guys at all. They're not throwing out any kind of
Mm-hmm.
tricks on these guys. Because we're way ahead.
Thing with forget the technology, forget the grainy image, forget the whatever it is. Let's say it is aliens. Let's say it is. Okay. What I can't get over on this whole tic tac is the reaction of the people. Because if it was extraterrestrial and they were seeing it for the first time, I think there would be some different type of narrative in the background of the video. So the reaction is too calm and too comfortable, which would suggest to me that they were briefed prior to the filming. So they knew what it is before they locked onto it. Or perhaps in conjunction, they are used to seeing that kind of thing. And that is just a clip of a bunch of things that they're familiar with, but they're not freaking out. Priscilla has chimed in and says she agrees with you in your analysis as well. Total control of the narrative. Thank you, Priscilla. So, like, I don't know, where do you want to go with this? Like, I mean, it's for me, the evidence is, I mean, it could be significant, but we don't. From an evidence point of view, we don't have enough evidence, enough information in that video to conclude either way. So technically, it's bad. It's not good. It's not good information because we can't conclude. It's inconclusive until we get more data or alternative data that can reinforce that. And then the other thing with images. So as an example, where I'm sitting right now, this is the picture. This looks nice. This was staged, right? You can't tell that I'm sitting in jogging pants unless I stand up. You can't tell that there's a mess of paperwork over here until I move it. So whenever people are on that focal, when they're trying to capture that best shot, what else is important is everything that's happening around here. And once we get those, photo number 1, 2, and 3, as they were, moving, that will give us a bigger understanding because that tic tac was zoomed in. But what about the wide? What else? Like that was zoomed in real close, right? That narrow view of focus to hide everything else. That's just like me putting like this right here, right? But as soon as you zoom out, right, you see all this other stuff. We don't have that, and that's what we need. And because that could very well show someone standing there with a piece of paper and a string going like this, right? So we don't. It's good evidence, but it's better evidence because, I'm trying here. It's shit evidence. It's good source. It's a better source. But civilians are better at providing evidence in detail than the military. Now we have to look at, of course, the military allowed it, or it was leaked and it wasn't leaked, and Lou's story changing all over the place. But the government doesn't know what it is because there's not enough information to conclude. So why do you think? So what do you think about the UFO, Pentagon, and all this other stuff? Pentagon, pardon me. What are they calling it? The office, I guess, is an office for the UAP, the task force, but they're making an official full-time office in 2022. So what do you think the reason for that is?
Okay. This is the third time they've done this since I've been around.
Okay.
It's the third time they've gone out and raised a fuss. I mean, a lot of people try to say 8, 9 times, and when they did AATIP and all this other stuff and all these other programs, they didn't do this kind of stuff. They didn't make this kind of fuss when they did all these programs. This is to me, this is the third time that they made the whole fuss through the Senate and the House and got everybody on the TV and all this kind of stuff. Since I've been, of any kind of knowledgeable person to remember it, since back in the 70s. And it's just a routine. It's become a routine that they bring out every few decades.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing anything new. When they first came out and they first started doing this crap, I came right straight out from the beginning. It was like, don't buy into it. It's the same old, same old. Yeah, you weren't born then, but trust me, it's just not you. I'm like trying to tell other people, they did this before. They did it before that. It's the same routine. You're just bringing it out again.
So
And
but why? What's the reason?
just to get people to calm people down. They get these guys that believe in the UFOs and want to dig into it. They want to get into the community. They want to get people dug. They want to be able to get government agents and everything else deeper into the community so they can gather more information. They want to get some of these guys that they think are nested into the agency, and they got chummy friends here and there and every place else, and they got too many believers. They want to find out who all is associated with these guys on the inside, and they want to go in and collect the information on them. They want to become part of that network again. They're not in there. They're not in there far enough.
Mm-hmm.
So they go ahead and they dig themselves in. A whole lot of our community, and I'll say our community, for the UFO community, was involved with this whole thing that happened on January 6th. A whole lot of them. Okay? And that's not gossip. That's not guessing. These actually folks were just in there. They were part of that whole thing that they wanted to go ahead and turn over the government in the United States. And we saw that.
Mm-hmm.
We saw how many people were getting blocked. We saw how many people were going over, and they were there. They were actually there on site. They made plans ahead of time to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not being silly about this stuff. We all know it. We watched. And then afterwards, and they're still to this day acting like it never happened. And why do you think a lot of these people started turning up, getting arrested for this and arrested for that? Before all this stuff was they were getting closer. The feds were getting back into the group. They were digging around. They were turning up some dirt here, turning up some dirt there. They were getting into the network. Okay, if you were to go ahead and put them in there and look at the metadata, you'd find out, okay, the feds are here. Now you're watching them line up here. You can take in your little thumbtacks and the strings and do your own metadata homework, and you find out they were just right in that network. So there was some stuff that needed to be cleaned out, some people that needed to be checked out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the folks, I just need to keep track of them. They just wanted a little tighter grip. And the whole thing, they got themselves into the whole network, into the whole host. And they're right in there right now.
Now that they're in there, what are they going to do? What's the plan?
They don't want to do anything but watch.
What are they watching for? What are they watching for?
They're watching to make sure that they don't get their noses stuck too far into something that's going to cause a real trouble for the U.S. government. They want to watch and make sure these people aren't going to be jeopardizing the security of the nation with insiders that want to go and blow the whistle and become, telling secrets and stuff like that they don't actually understand what's going on. They don't want people coming out and whistleblowing every 2 weeks. They don't want all this stuff to be spread out.
I see this whistleblowing thing has been taken advantage of, in my opinion. I could like, I don't know, like with the Rutowski thing, like That's blowing a whistle. Someone came forward and said, like it's a thing, and then you're popular, and then you do things, and then blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden you're Lou Elizondo. So like I mean, I feel like that's a tag. It's a name now. It's a trendy thing. It's not really a real thing anymore.
But see, that's why I don't think you got the reason why it made me upset about him in Canada, and why it was upset about me. I got upset with Lou. You see, both those situations, the state was giving away state property to individuals without giving it freely to the entire state. Okay? That's what ticked me off. How come somebody's getting free videos, okay, exclusive stuff,
when we have to
giving
pay
it to
for it? Yeah, and we have to pay for it.
Yeah. Why wasn't I called about it? Why didn't they post it up on the bulletin board and let me bid on it? Okay, I would have gave him some bucks. You gave it for free to him, I would give 20 bucks
if
for it.
you auction that off, I'm sure you can make a lot of money especially for that. And that's the point that we're at right now with Rutowski is it's not the point of what he's done. It's the point of like people like myself who's paid money every time I do a freedom of information request, and to sometimes have it come back and say no record found, and then to find out he's getting the records. It's because they give it to him and then they clear it, and then he doesn't make it public. So like this guy is not a whistleblower. He's whatever the opposite of that is. He's like I don't know. I can't think of anything that's polite for the air, but
well, I got the word for it, but I don't know if I can say that without getting sued.
You're American.
In my opinion, they're just making money on the situation, and they just happen to be around there, almost like they're ambulance chasing. There's an actual word for that, and but getting past that point that's what there's so much in common between the two of them. Neither one are whistleblowing. Okay, you're exactly right. Neither one of them are whistleblowing, but one's being held up as a hero. Yay! Oh, we got to be careful. You got to help him out. He's put his life on the line. Yeah, that's a good one. One of them is an extreme hoarder. You got that right.
Yeah, but Chantal said hoarder. That's it. That's right. They're just covering their ass because, like, well, Lou now has a book deal and he's on TV and he's doing all these things. You get paid for those things. I mean, like if he's telling, what, Lou, in a sense, at least, if I were to compare, I'm not so much mad with Lou as I am with Chris. So Lou at least presented something. He did his tour. He's still doing it. Everyone still is looking for information from him, and that's not his fault. As he shows up to every time he's invited, allegedly he hasn't returned my responses, but he knows what I do, so that's probably why. But he's not really, like, he's just responding to what the people make of him. And whereas Chris is doing the same, except we've proven he's withheld information. And when I proved that 5 years ago, I was pushed out of MUFON. When I proved it again, 3 years ago, no one would listen to me. And then now when the same story comes out by a credible journalist, all of a sudden he's sorry. All of a sudden he's a Canadian. So, I mean, that's because the money was affected. Me being a voice a couple of years ago, he calls up MUFON. MUFON, it was all about money. Let's get him out because we're going to lose money. He knows. And then a few years ago, I'm on my own. Nobody would cover the story because they didn't want to lose Chris as a credible source for this topic, as small as it is. And then now that it's open, he openly admits, because it looks bad, because he has a book coming out, and his book probably more than likely has these documents in it, which means he was hanging on to them the whole time to sell them. Now he's probably changing his book, which would be smart for him. But it's too late. The damage is already done. So can we trust him moving forward? What do you think about that?
No. I don't think trust either one of myself, in my opinion, but
Yeah.
they're just opportunists. They don't care morally. I don't see any concern about how either one is worrying about anything. There's no concern there. They're just opportunists. They want to make their bucks. They want to get ahead. They wanted, at least one of them wanted to, and did, and the other was trying to now.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the problem is it's the people that are buying into it. So if the people are manipulated enough to follow, then it's kind of the way that it's going to be. But at the same time, this is our opinion, and we also could be wrong. It's just you got to pick a side, but we don't necessarily need to attack these people. I won't pay $300 to see Lou Elizondo talk at a conference. Like that's just. But there's probably a million people that will do it, and that's fine for him. What do we got here? Sharina says, gotta jump off. We'll listen to the rest on replay. Kevin, so glad you are here and telling your experiences. So that's from Serena. Thanks, Serena. Okay, so do you have any more to add to that before I throw in the next question, or what do you want to? How you feeling?
No, that we kind of got into some places I tried to avoid. I didn't want to get into it, but I'm glad you brought it up. I really wanted to say that stuff. But,
what else do you want to say? This is like, unless.
When I saw my first, what I felt was an actual flying saucer or UFO that was actually I felt that was from an alien or extraterrestrial craft. I think that's the political correct way to put it. I was 12 years old. A friend and I we set a tent up in the yard of the house I grew up in, and we were getting ready to. We both joined a Boy Scout group, and we were getting ready to go camping soon for the first time. So we wanted to practice setting up a tent, practice, sleeping out in the, outside, and sleeping bags and all that kind of good stuff, so we wouldn't be so foolish when we got out there. So we got out there and we set up our stuff, and we were just out running around, playing around that night. I think we were playing cards in the tent at one point when we heard breaking glass, and so we both got up out of there. We had our trusty flashlights with us, our torches, and we popped out of there and we looked over to where we heard the sound of the breaking glass, and we noticed people going into my neighbor's house.
Okay.
For the first time, we noticed that somebody had broken into one of the homes of somebody we knew in the neighborhood, and so we went in and we called the police. Police came pretty quick. The people had already gone, the burglars. They grabbed some stuff and booked out of there, ran. But we called the police and got it all reported and stuff. And the police came and did the reports. They called the people who owned the house. They had two little girls, twin girls, and they got back. They were very upset. The girls had been saving change since they were, like 2 or 3 or something, in these big, like the water jugs, and the guys had taken those. Both of them had them full. Plus, they took other stuff from the house. But I remember the girls crying so much because of that. I don't blame them. But anyways, got that wrapped up. Got to talk to the police and all that kind of stuff like that. So we had a lot of excitement going on that night. My dad was at work. My mom was out with my sister. They were doing shopping and stuff. It was still early in the evening. It was only about 8 or 9 o'clock, I think it was. Anyways, we went back over to the tent and stuff like that, and we heard some noises up in the tree and stuff, and we came out of the tent again, and we were going around, looking around. Went around back of the tent this time, and we started looking around up in the we had big oak trees and stuff on the property, and big pine trees. We put our tents up by the pine trees, big blue spruce, and then we went back over and we heard some noise, and we thought there must have been an animal or something up in the way up in the pine oak trees. Excuse me, way up in the oak trees. And we started looking up there, pointing up our flashlights and everything. And then all of a sudden, I saw this bright light up in the sky. So I get his friend's name was Rob, and I get Rob's attention. I was like, "Hey, man, look!" So we started looking up there, and we pointed flashlights up there, which is silly. But we started looking at the light, and the light wasn't moving; it was just hanging there. And this was like a explosive type light. It was just bright, and it was shining down and just all over the place. It was like, you could see the, stuff coming off the light. It was just so bright. It was ultra white, and light was coming off of it, downward and then out. And it wasn't like it was just shining down or just like or not like a light bulb just sticking there. I mean, light was coming out from it. Excuse me. And the thing was just hanging up there in the sky. And we thought it was over top the park that's over here where I'm living now. We thought it was over top the park and over by the pool and stuff that was there, and because it was way off in a distance that way. But where it turned out to be, it was over top the highway and the one of the steel manufacturing plants where my dad worked, and a big porcelain manufacturing plants. They made toilets, and they would, they had big kilns and everything to bake them and stuff. And the reason why I know that is because the guys from that plant, there was a shift of them out eating their lunch break, the second shift guys, and they were out there eating their lunch on the tables because it was, it's hot in that plant, and it was still in the middle of the summer. And they looked up and they saw it. So there was like, 40 guys from that plant. They weren't drunk and they weren't crazy, and they just eating their lunch after working the first half of their shift. And they'd seen it. Me and my friend went back in the house again and called the police again. The second time in one night. First time I ever called the police in my life. Second time I ever called the police in my life. Called them and told them that there was this big light, strange light up in the sky, and blah blah. Aren't you the kids who just called earlier about that? Right? Yeah, we're called. We're the ones that called, and okay, well, we'll have somebody look into it, and run back out, and start looking at the light again. We're still there. It's still hanging out there. The light still hanging out there, and the light starts to move slowly, and it starts coming toward us. It's up in the sky. It's got to be, 1,000 or 2,000 foot or something. I don't know how tall it was up there, but it wasn't like it was way up on the other side of the clouds or anything. And it was coming toward us, and it was starting to pick up speed just a little bit. It was coming in a straight line over top of us, and we watched it as it came over, and then it stops. And it sat there for a few seconds, and it made a 90-degree turn in one direction and went a little faster to the next stop, and then it stopped. And then it took off a little faster this time and went to the next segment and stopped. Then it took another 90-degree turn again, went faster this time, and then it stopped. and it hung up for a few seconds, and then it just shot off. And freaked us out.
So what do you think it might have been?
I think it was an alien. I think it was a alien spacecraft. I've never seen a light like that since or before. On nothing that's ever been man-made. And that was 46 years ago. And never seen anything since that gave off that kind of light. We
You
have
seen anything like that since.
Yeah, nothing like that since, nor before that day. And
okay.
And the way it hung there, it made no noise, but it had to be 2 miles away from us when we first saw it hanging there in the sky. That's where that plant is. It's literally 2 miles down this road.
Okay.
So it was about 2 to 2.5 miles away from us when we first saw it, or somewhere in between that. And then it came up toward us when it was moving. So it had to be doing a decent amount of speed when it came up toward us, the first leg of its little pass, its little movement. And then when it stopped, and then it just kept, each time it just accelerated faster in each one of those little moves. It basically made a question mark in the sky, but everything was at 90-degree turns instead of a curve. And then when it came to the end of that, it just booked off, and it was out of sight totally within a second or so. And never heard a sound. There was nothing else in the sky chasing or nothing like that. We could see, we saw planes in the distance, flashing lights. Because there's Cleveland Airport to the north of us. Youngstown Regional Airport is back to the south of us. And Cleveland Airport will come out when it's busy, will circle all up toward around us. We're 60 miles, 45 miles out. So their planes, when they're busy, they will spiral around us. At least we can see them and stuff like that. So, but there was nothing over or around us at the time and stuff like that. And the skies were clear enough that we could, see out and stuff like that. And it was a strange night. I'll never forget that night. I still haven't forgot that night. I may not have every detail correct. I never wrote the story down. I've never gone back to try to get everything put down in order and exactly right. But I remember seeing the thing in the sky. Yeah. I remember how it moved across the sky. I remember how it took those angles. And then I remember when it took the heck off.
And you remember what it looks like?
Yeah.
Can you draw?
I can draw just the way the light was. Yeah. I never saw a physical craft under the light. Okay. It was the light, and the light was coming from it. So, it wasn't like a little speck light in the sky. No. It wasn't one of those.
Okay.
So, and I'll tell you what happened after that. We see it the next day in the newspaper. I told my mom about it, told my dad about it, told everyone I saw the next day told people about it. And we were basically being made fun of. My mom was telling people, everyone we saw, she was like, "Oh, tell them what you saw last night." The only thing that came out that was kind of decent was it was in the newspaper that the fire chief, those guys, those factory workers out of the plant, and a number of other people around the city had saw the same thing when we saw it. And they'd called in and reported to the police in the newspaper. And So there are other witnesses around that saw it and stuff like that. I tried to follow up by asking people, asking the police department and the newspaper and stuff, and what they found out about it and stuff like that. And they were like, you know what? We're so interested in it too. When we find anything about it, we'll call you. Yeah, right. I'm gonna call a 12-year-old kid now and like think about, never heard anything back from anybody about it. We have 2 military bases. Air Force Base, like 10 miles this way, 10 miles the other direction is National Guard, Air Force Training Center, and they're also the place. There's an ammunition plant there for Smith and Wesson and Colt. They make the ammunition, they make the rounds, they make the gunpowder. They store bombs there underground. They were one of the main storage places for bombs during World War II, and they still store stuff there. They can't find all the bombs they never found all the bombs, so they can't close the facility. They got these big brass doors and elevators that are mounted up, dirt mounted up over top of them, and they still keep the thing in commission, and they still use it now as a joint testing facility for all the armed forces combined. We made specialty steel in this area. Excuse me, for everything from planes to tanks to army vehicles to everything, all the way through the war and then afterwards, and all the way up through the 70s, late 70s. This was a major area for steel manufacturing. Yeah. And this is always a very important area as far as that kind of stuff, because not only because of steel, but the types of steel and the alloys they made here. Lots of different manufacturing companies here, even in the aluminum and all those different types of tungsten and other specialty metals, exotic metals. And for them to not care and not follow up on anything after that showed me that was BS. If they don't care that there's something in the airspace over here with all these targets and all these special situations in this area and the military bases and all the bombs and all the manufacturing for the weapons and everything else, if they weren't concerned enough to follow through to find out what that was, that means that it's just BS.
The other thing too is like we should trust the government with something. So maybe the government knows everything in the world, and they just know that what we think it is, it's not that, and it's something else entirely different. It could be worse. It could be Stranger Things for all we know. Like just because they're scoffing at it, that might be a hint. Like, cause like Canadian, like, let's look at how Canada, like these documents with Rutowski is one thing. Like Canada, we're forgetting the part that Canada was actually actively releasing it to a civilian. The intent, according to the article, was to have it released in this way to all of the Canadians. He just didn't do it efficiently. But Canada still released it. Canada disclosed documents in 2008, a whole bunch. There's 8,000 documents that are available. They let it loose. It's there. Just no one has put the pieces together, which is what we're trying to do here with Tessa. But I believe disclosure has already happened. It's just no one has actually put it together. But Canada's perspective, from what I'm reading in these documents, is they know what it is. They know of German engineered flying saucers. They know that there was a war between that technology getting in the hands of the United States, and then Roswell happens, and then the United States all of a sudden has one, and then just like the nukes. It's just technology. Like, we didn't want all the countries to have nuclear weapons. Well, the first person to make a nuclear weapon, I think, probably was the States, was it not? I don't know. And then all of a sudden everybody has nuclear technology, so it's not a threat anymore. So maybe this is just technology that someone wants to have cutting edge, that could have gravitational lift, propulsions, and all that stuff that could save on fuel, tax, like everything, to be economical, and then use that against the enemy. But you don't want anyone to know about it, because then everyone will have it. And at the same time, how do you practice it? Which is why we have the Navy video. Because where else would you practice using foreign technology that no one can see? Well, why not out in the middle of the ocean where there's nobody? And then somebody just used their cell phone, broke protocol, and videotaped confidential information. And now Lou Elizondo is famous for it. So, like, that's normal. That's normal human behavior. Everything else that you've experienced and that you explained earlier, that has nothing to do with this UFO stuff. This is a distraction or something else, that a cover up for a cover up. And that could very well be because the technology and phones have changed. We now have the capability of fact checking and the capability of calling out people on their shit. So when they were just so comfortable to us as people not paying attention or not noticing, so now they have this task force to cover up the task force and field all these things, because we poked out all their flaws. We just exposed Chris Rutowski. What's Canada going to do? Canada's more than likely going to just stop giving that information out to Rutowski, and then we'll have to do the freedom of request like we always have, and he'll just have to pay for them now, like I have been, if he still wants them. But there's no aliens in that part. So do aliens or extraterrestrials and spirits and all that exist? Well, I guess they do. They do, but like, where's the science for that? Where's the evidence of that? The closest thing we know to being possible, in our opinion, based on our conversation tonight, is fake. What can we trust? What do you think? You're cheering me on there. That's why I kept going. But I mean, I want your opinion.
That's the part that drives me crazy, is that I have to admit it, that I've been searching all this time. I've been looking. I've been listening to people. I've been talking to people. I've been interviewing them. You go through this stuff. You've been, all these years. I've never gave up, and the frustration that I've gone through just from being an experiencer is one thing, but the frustration that you turn around from being a believer, and then you have to step back when you're an investigator, and you have to clean the slate, and you can't put your own stuff into that. You have to look at the evidence, and you have to look at what other people's experiences go in there, and you can put your own experience in there, but you can't give it any more weight. And then you look at how you're treated by other people. And is that part of the cover-up, or is there a cover-up at all?
Oh, there's a lot of flaws in the human race. We do a lot of bad things for many different types of reasons. And that's history. I mean, like, everything's changing. The world is changing. People are changing. We are evolving. There is also government documentation that shows that Canada, as well as the United States, has been experimenting with MK Ultra, mind control, and like, there's evidence of manipulating the human mind to connect with another either human or another dimension. So the answer is interdimensionally. I think we're just looking in the wrong space. A lot of us in the science community want to physically see the thing in their hands, have it in their hands so they can measure it. Because they can't prove what we see in our eyes or in our senses. Scientists can't do anything with that. They can't prove it. Because the mental mind, the human mind, is fragile in some ways, and there's a lot of things that interfere with that. But in order to measure it, we need to have it in this physical world. So that's where where we have to measure everything together. So you are physically able to use a mental ability to see something in an alternative reality, and the science behind that is you're not the only one. So whether we can prove it or not, science is that if I put all of you guys in the same room who all claim to have the same ability, and you all work together and you levitate the object for an experiment, there's the answer. But nobody wants to work together. Everyone wants to fight with each other. Everybody wants the answers for themselves. So we might go a little bit over time here, but there's two questions I wanted to ask before we ended this. First of all, how the hell do I pronounce your YouTube handle and your investigation? Because I've been saying it and been trying it, and I'm sure you're laughing every time, so it's correct me right here. How do I say that?
You've heard of Andy Warhol, right?
Yeah.
What about Roy Lichtenstein?
So it's licked. It's moon licked, not light, not liched, licked. Why don't you spell it like Licked? Licked. Okay. Moon licked.
It's Scottish and it's German, and depending on how you want to hit the.
Well, what does it mean? What does it mean to you? What does it mean?
Illuminated by the moon.
Okay.
Lit. You can say moon lit. It's just being illuminated by the moon.
So that word does mean light then.
Yeah. The moon is a goddess, and that's why I ask. I'll usually ask somebody, "Do you believe that the moon is goddess?" Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, like Lynn or some of the Wellington, and someone who's a witch or someone who believes in different types of philosophies or different types of deities. Some people say, well, that's a feminine thing. Well, no, the moon is a goddess, so being lit by a goddess, yeah, it's going to be a feminine light, but it doesn't mean that you're feminine. It doesn't mean anything about that. It's that the moon versus the sun. The sun is masculine, raw. The moon is feminine, Luna. So you have the two balances there, and so you have the sun people and you have the moon people. There's two different distinctions there, and so I look at it that way.
Equally important. We need them both in order to survive. So as much as the academic community is a pain in the ass sometimes, we still need them. And I feel like if we're able to give them something tangible, some good evidence that they could actually do their job for, then they'd be happy. So the last and final question is why Tessa? Why are you here? For everything that you've just gone through and all that, what brings you to Tessa? You are officially a volunteer now. This is the end of the line. We met, we had a conversation. I feel great. But why are you here? Other than the fact we told you had to be here.
Basically, I've been, I've watched, I've seen, your organization or our organization is out there to support the experiencer. I mean, it sounds overly simplified, but that is what it is. You're not out there to judge anybody. You're not out there to attack anybody. people look at me like I'm rather harsh, but I'm not harsh when it comes down to talking with somebody about their experiences. I'm there to hear you out. I'm there to give you some support about whatever it might be. I feel that my mission in life has basically been the same as your mission, Tessa's mission. So even though I've told you sometimes before in like little messages or like in symbolism or whatever like that, we have the same goal. We just don't go at it the same way. Okay. And I don't think you ever really looked at me that way, but we really do have the same goal. And people look at me like I'm rather, I am rather strong-willed about things and do things in a different way. But I am very concerned about people, and I care about people very deeply. And I want to help people, and that's what I've done most of my life is try to help people. But they don't look at me. They look at me like I'm argumentative and I'm attacking people all the time. And they look at me in very different ways.
People hate me too. People hate me too.
I try to go back at people with the same energy that they come at me with. I want them to see how they are seeing. If they're using an energy that is destructive and ugly, I just want them to see that energy. I want them to see what it's like when they put that energy out to people. I want them to see what that energy looks like, coming right back at them, just as strong as they're putting it out to me. I want them to see what it comes back at them like. And I don't mean it. I don't have that emotion. Okay, I don't have the emotional attachment that they have. But I will send it right back at them, just as strong and everything and intense as what they give to me. But I'm not upset. And I really mean it. I'm not upset. I don't, know somebody like that. I don't care what your opinion might be of me. You're not saying about you personally or something like that. But I mean, when people come and you start yelling at me in a chat room or something like that, or start, making comments to me about something like, so what? I can't be upset by what you're saying. I don't know anything about you. Right. I can't take your stuff to heart because you don't know anything about me. So how can I be upset by your words? If you say something that makes some sense to me, I'm going to listen to it. But if you're just jammering on about some BS, no, you're not going to upset me. But I might flip it back at you. Yeah. And you might get ticked off. And then we can talk about it. If you want to talk to me about it, sure. We might become friends, even though we have totally different views about stuff.
Yeah.
But
and having that conversation is good. It's part of it because, like, a lot of people project how they feel, and they may not be aware of that. And plus, it's on, if it's text and Twitter, like Twitter's bad for that. Like I love stirring the shit on Twitter, but like, I mean, that's because that's what they do. But when you break it down and be like, hey, are you feeling okay? Sorry, and you start to point out, like you said, their behavior, they stop. And then they leave you alone too. So like it's, I think with the Experiencers Support Association, the like you said, like it's in the name. It's so obvious, the intent, but in order for it to be successful relies on experiencers like yourself, and Chantel and Serena, Priscilla, and we got Chris too, and Tim, you guys representing the experiencers within the organization. By supporting each other, you're supporting others because you know what it's like to not have support. And there's different levels of support. We don't necessarily need to go to a psychologist or a counselor or that implies that there's something wrong with the way that you're experiencing things. You just need to know that you can talk comfortably in an environment. Now, with us, the science side, the investigative side, it helps to remove the fear and the trauma and the pain that comes from years and years and years of keeping the story inside, or years and years of saying it on the internet and having people just ripping you apart because they just want to argue. And so what, with that in mind, that's more than likely what drew you to Tessa. And after I'm hearing your experiences, it definitely feels like this is a good home. And I'm happy to hear that we were able to provide that impression for you. So my question is for you, now that you're here, what is your goal? What are you going to do for the people? What do you want to do? What's your goal? Set it in stone. We'll make it happen.
Well, you've already gave me a chance to start sharing, and I will continue to share if I can.
Okay.
The other part about it is I would like people to know that they have somebody that will listen to them, and will help them to resolve, or even just be there for them. To let them know that there's somebody here that cares about what they're going through and that knows a little bit about what they might be going through. I don't know what everyone's going through. I'm not one of those people like, oh, honey, I know what you've been through and I know this and that and the other. I'm not one of those people. Okay? I may explain to you, I can tell you what I've been through, and I can tell you what I know some other people might have been through. But I'm not going to sit there and tell you that, oh, yeah, baby, I know this and I know that and da 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 da. I'm not going to be that kind of person with somebody, because it doesn't do them any good, I don't think. Because basically what I'm here to do is to listen to what somebody's got going on, and if there's something I can do to help them understand something, or just be there to listen and talk to them, I'm there.
And that's enough. And that's enough. And like the philosophy is a concept. The idea of helping each other is not old. It's just a lot of people don't know how to do it. And what we're looking for, and as it's working, is we're finding the right people that understand that want to do that, and set the example. And you're doing well, and I'm glad to have you. And there's lots of work to go around too, so we'll just tell Chantel what you're ready for and what you want to do, and then we can even go into investigations too. Like, there's so many things. So you just let Chantel know, what pace you want to go at, where you want to help out. And I saw that you were sharing stuff. I saw that you're helping. So, and everything that you were doing before you went through the process, all that stuff matters. So you got a good heart. You gotta, I know what it's like to be hated. It's, I always say to them, why do you hate me? You don't hate me. You hate how I'm making you feel, and you probably just need a hug right now. And but you can't communicate that to them, right? It takes time. Like Chris Rutowski right now, he's probably really freaking mad. But I hope, and he has the opportunity just to come forward and release the documents before I do, because I just don't have time. But we have them, and they'll come out. But if he just releases them because he has them, then heed the world. I mean, people, regardless of what it is, we need love. We need help. We need association. We need to be together. So welcome home, man. You're here. Welcome to the team.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. So we're going to end it. Thank you so much. And as we mentioned, October 16th is the next Experiencers Anonymous. We'll be making those posts soon. My next video for lunchtime videos will be on Monday and Thursday. And I don't know who my guest is next week. I don't know. We'll talk about it on Monday. But Kevin, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to all of the listeners and all the people in the chat. Lisa, I see you there. Good night, Chantel. Good night, Chantel. Good night. Hi, Priscilla. I see you there. I'll see you in a little bit. And bye, Kevin. If you want to have a chit chat with me after, I'll be here. So if not, I'll talk to you when I talk to you. And nice to meet you. Any questions for me while you got me? Live on the spot? Anything?
I don't want to put you on the. We're good
Yes,
here.
you do. Yes, you do.
Oh,
What do you want?
well, I don't know if it, I'll just say, how do you think the interview went?
We'll say that again.
Did you have any apprehension before the interview?
Like, did I have an understanding of what we were going to talk about?
No. I mean, did you have how did you think the interview would go?
Oh, I had no idea. I never know. I'm having a conversation. I'm not interviewing you. I'm not interrogating you. I'm talking to you. So I had a good conversation. If it's different, like get Rotowski in the seat, and then that'll be a goal. Why don't you try it? How about that for a test goal? Try to convince that guy to sit in the chair with me and hash it out. Can you do that?
I think I get some good stuff going. I think the two of us might be able to get some people to interview that
Yeah, why not?
that we wouldn't think would want to interview.
I could always pop up as a guest host on somebody else's interview too. We just gotta get them in a chair and then sneak me in. That's all we need. Doesn't have to be here.
Tim starts doing his videos.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, we'll talk.
All right, well then we'll leave it at that. So everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening on the replay, and keep your eyes in the sky and heed the world. Peace.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, where together, my friends, we own the night. On our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a place called the SOR Sightlines Report. All of our investigations and people who inquire are turned over to TESSA, the Experiencers Support Association. Ryan Stacy and his crew, what I like about them, they're independent. They're not working for anybody, and they want answers. We want answers for our listeners and people who inquire as well about their experiences. It's a great tandem, and we love being teamed up with TESSA. If you haven't heard of us before, that's okay. We'd love to earn your listening ears. Join us 9:06 Pacific Time, 12:06 a.m. Eastern for 3 hours of live entertainment, 7 days a week.
Please stand by for further details. We return you now to your regularly scheduled program.
Hello, new YouTube member. Guess what? You've just unlocked bonus content that no one else has seen before, and you get exclusive access to some neat features. If you join the Experiencers Anonymous tier, you've unlocked loyalty badges which will appear next to your name when you join us live during any of our videos. The longer you stay with us, the cooler the badge will be. Also, you get to use these cool custom emojis that we made just for you. You also get to access our private Discord chat where we can communicate all the time privately. All you have to do is email us at admin@tessacan.org. Let us know you want in on the discussion and we will send you the link directly to Discord. This tier also unlocks early access to new videos, behind the scenes and blooper footage, as well as some exclusive videos made just for members. All that for $2.99 Canadian a month. If you join the unclassified tier for $4.99 Canadian, you would get everything I just said, plus extended footage of some of our featured videos, a discount to our merch store, and so much more. If you are a member of the unclassified tier, email us at admin@tessacan.org and let us know, and we will send you a discount code for the Paranormal Hangar. All proceeds go back into the mission and help us create educational content for you and the rest of the world. Thank you for being a part of that journey. There are lots of perks, so make sure you check that out. Also, you can use this tab to share and communicate with Tessa. That's it. Unless you have a better idea. If you do, email us at admin@tessacan.org if you have any requests for videos or bonus perks or anything at all. Really, you are in charge. Don't be afraid to reach out. Thanks for your support, and if you know anyone else who may benefit, please share our channel. The more people we have, the more we can help. And thanks for watching. Keep your eyes in the sky. Say it with me. Say it, Tim.
Eat the world.
Eat the world.